So capacity as an enabler, I think that's a great phrase. I'll write that down. Okay, so let's open that up then. So perhaps we can ask Bertrand. We had a good conversation at your stand with your colleagues around some use cases. Perhaps you'd like to share with us the sorts of things you're witnessing and seeing coming through.
I mean, we have so as Link Mobility, we have a different type of company. We are discussing directly with the brands, so we are constantly evolving the use cases to adapt the use cases and the product to the enterprise. Yeah? So depending on what they're looking for, that's the most important when you start talking with them. I mean, you train your team and your commercial team to be to adapt the need of your customer. Yeah. So if, for example, we talk about like a bank will not have the same need than a marketing platform or like a packet delivery company like DHL, which is as well one of our customers. So when we try to develop the different use cases and try to tend to push the customer to help them solve the problem they have with the end user or with the end customer. That's the whole purpose of building this new platform, and let's say like reaching the audience of our customer the best possible way, and that's not always something that our customer in these cases the brand know. So that's why we need to teach them to just go reach their audience and solve the problem. Because when, for example, when I have a problem with my airline and I want to change my ticket, I don't want to spend like half an hour on the phone with the call center to say, yeah, I need to do that, and then press 1 and press 2, and at the end of this, where then I finally reach someone that can help me solve my problem. That's not what I'm looking for. So that's why where we come in and where we try to somehow help the brand and just like educate them to just find the best way to stop this like kind of frustration that their customer can have.
Yeah. So one thing I'm trying to do is get out of this conversation is specifics around which kinds of verticals, which can you share some client names, so we can get a sort of view of actually what are we serving? Because what we're talking about so far is more generic. I want to sort of try to get some real specific examples, and we can sort of use them as use cases. Maybe a couple of client examples.
Yeah, I mean, we are developing the whole WhatsApp use cases for DHL, for example.
Great.
Yeah. So, I mean, for us, I'm not on the client side, but I can. What we're trying to do, me, my colleague, and my team, we're trying to enable that for the customer. So trying to get number like from different country in order to enable the service for DHL to open up like a type of like a discussion with a customer.
I mean, DHL is a great example because it's got a mixture of global tracking. So we're going to need IoT, we're going to need monitoring, surveillance. We're going to need global connectivity, real time, all that. So yeah, that's a great example. Chandra, let's move on to you and ask you the same question. Let's talk about you gave a presentation about, I loved your kind of thing about things like end to end. So can you give us some use cases in your world that you've come across that prove that like DHL there needs to be some end to end?
Yeah, see, there's the buzzword end-to-end or one-stop shop kind of buzzword are already there in the market. Because see, today, if you talk, like 40% of the world population is below 30 years. These are millennial, and their way of thinking and their way of communicating with the platforms are totally different. So when it comes to use cases like today, for an example, like we have our own fintech platform. When you talk about specific to fintech platforms, it's just a technology that enables that digital ecosystem that create that mobile money operation smoothly. But now there are many requirements from the customers. Within top of that digital money platform, they need IVR, they need more communication platform top up on that. So I think everything is converging in that shape, and customers and as well as enterprises also need a solution that can serve them end to end.
Yeah.
So that way I think industry is monetizing. And the second, I want to bring one point more to it. Like when you talk about new technologies, IoT or like 5G, in the perspective of telecom, the market is not going to be that significant. But when you bring mobile money and that to the perspective, market gets more than 5 to 7 times. So I think the boundaries between telecom and fintech are blurring, and that's where, and plus healthcare as well, and that's where I think there would be more opportunities for clients.
Okay, fantastic. So then, so we talked about kind of use cases, and the one thing I was hoping that Mahmoud, you'd bring out into the conversation is this idea about more to your point about convergence, and I want to talk about the new world of immersive. I think you had some great insights on that.
Yeah.
Share with us.
Yeah, if you think about the way telecom is moving forward, it's probably being an enabler for the rest of the world, and 5G is breaking the barrier between what we call machine or IoT and the consumer. And this is a great revolution, because with the amount of data there, you would need, in a way or another, artificial intelligence to be able to manage it again in a smart way. And that immersive experience is coming both to the consumer, but also to the machine side. And from our telecom perspective, what we need to do, let's first of all make a statement. The world will continue to be in a need for telecom, because we are the skeleton of these communications, okay? The great content providers, the great communication platforms, the great software world would create that immersive experience for all of us, for the IoT machines as well. But you will need the skeleton to be working properly behind that. And the skeleton is the telecom world, right? So what we need to do now is to be open to the software world. One excellent example we have at iBasis, and I'm not talking to it as an ad, but really it's closer to me, is the acquisition of Symphony company, which now allows us to change profile on the IoT SIM card, eSIM card, etc. Manage that over the air. And this is just one example of where the world is leading. The fusion between the telecom world and the software, the AI world is creating a whole new world, which is pushed in a way or another by the consumers and by the IoT providers, because at the end of the day, that immersive experience will come to us. We'll probably talk later about the Metaverse, but if you think about it, that's exactly what the immersive word means, being completely in a virtual world where communication is key, but the skeleton behind it is still coming from the telecom world.
Okay, so let's pick up on that, and that will lead us into the next aspect, but just want to mention something on that. So let's talk about the Metaverse for a second as a sort of use case, shall we? Which could be, completely crazy in many ways, in terms of volume of traffic, in terms of the way we think, the way we live. But if we think about an aspect, so my least favorite topic in the Metaverse is gaming, right? With kids, you understand the point, right? But let's take that. We can't stop it, right? So let's make it good, right? So I have many enterprise examples, so we can talk about. So you'll get my point. So if you've got two people playing a game or interacting in the Metaverse, so that could be they're either on a video call, they're either doing a high risk medical procedure, using it, virtual reality. They could be gaming. So any of those sort of topics, you need to have the same experience on both sides in terms of connectivity, in terms of understanding whether or not there's going to be glitches, and you can monitor that in real time, and you can scale up some capacity or scale down, etc. Right? So that is quite complex. So I think the whole idea about this having end-to-end, I think, is very important. So have you had, well, actually what I'll do is I'll ask another question which kind of then will hopefully answer that problem. So let's move into the topic of platform now. I'll talk about the actual enablement layer. So could you perhaps, let's start with Chandra on this one then, I guess, in terms of the platform, you mentioned platform in your talk. What sort of features, best practices, technology should we be thinking about when we're talking about orchestration, making it happen?
Right. See, if you see the telecom market, we have access to the one of the biggest pool of data. Like if you talk, we interact with our network, and who is monetizing that? Most of the OTTs and all these Amazons of the world are being able to monetize it. Somewhere, so we need to think in their way. So
yes.
Till now, if you see, like all the OTTs and new age technologies, they take telecom wholesaler or a operator more over like a dumb pipe. We need to get out of that, and we need to be the part of this digital enablement. And somehow our platform has to be as interactive, as engaging with the customer as these new age companies are coming in the market. So it's a fight between what I feel is these industry 4 companies or Web3 companies, those are doing. If we kind of compete in their ground and can raise the bars to that level, then only we will survive.
Very good.
So, and the second, what I feel is somewhere it's not like only engagement with the customer and services. We need to get into analytics. We need to get into big data. We need to drive the patterns. We need to kind of enable our customers for their decision making, be it for anything. So somewhere telecom operators needs to get out of this, old age structures where, hundreds of systems parallelly are running. They need to be more swift and more digital. So digital is going to be the keyword, be it for their platform, and they have to kind of get into Web3 directly from 1980s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to put some meat on the skeleton, right?
Yeah.
So any other sort of aspects of services on top of the platform, so enablement, that you think we need to think about?
Yeah, I mean, anything related to video and stuff, it's not.
Video, right.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really. It's not really what we do at Link Mobility, but I mean, on what I can add on the discussion is like with the acquisition of Xeniu from Link Mobility, we added another layer of communication for our customer, being able to orchestrate everything in the back to help them communicate with the end user. Yeah, so it's we start having some use cases that we're working on, but I mean it's completely unrelated to really the topic of the video and the gaming stuff.
Arun, if I may, if you think about what were companies like Nokia and Ericsson 15 years back, the key of the game here is software, right? These guys coming from the telecom expertise, moving into the software world, virtualization, cloudification, and all these kind of buzzwords. But what's behind is the ability to transform into a software culture, being open to APIs, giving the possibility to everyone to get his own software, develop his own software, to add value to the value chain.
Yeah.
This is really what it's about.
So just picking up that excellent point there. So one thing that we're developing for our clients a lot more is, I think you mentioned about increasing multiples of value, right? That's what everybody wants to do, right? In terms of our clients anyway. And, you've got to have AI in there. You've got to have cloudification. You've got all the things you mentioned, right? So this idea of platform is, how to make it agile. And so open APIs is something, to make sure that they're consistent, so that they're not too bespoke to that individual company. That because we're trying to find a resource to be able to manage that software needs to be in a sort of common platform, right? So that's one thing. And then we're talking about easy for partnerships to plug in. Yeah. Could you talk to us a little bit about the partnership models you mentioned and examples of how you've integrated with some partners to give a more end-to-end?
See, I adding to your point, like it's not only like end-to-end. It's moreover about user friendliness as well.
Right. Yes.
Like if you talk about today mobile money platforms, you bring all the cryptography, every security to any particular bank. But if that GUI is not user friendly, trust me, that's not going to work.
Perfect, yeah.
So what I feel is when it comes to end-to-end partnership, like we have core technology. When it comes to GUI or all that, we take the help of the companies, those are better than us, to create the better interfaces. And the second is with mobile money, you have lots of platforms. Like mobile money is not only seamless money movement, there has to be security concern as well. So we kind of join hands with a company like who brought that ECC 256 cryptography to our platform. That's one of the most secure technology. So you need to think end to end. It's not only that this is your core area, and if you will bring that box to the customer or to the market, it's going to work. You need to kind of cover every corner of the technology, and somewhere you need to protect the user, and you need to give him an experience as well.
Experience, okay, excellent. Before we kind of move on, I promised that we'd have some time for questions, and I'd like to keep it interactive, otherwise it becomes a one-way street. So does anybody have any kind of questions at this stage they want to, we'll take the conversation in a particular way that's relevant to you. You have the luxury of being a small audience, so we can tailor it from here onwards. No? No questions? Okay, fantastic. So then what I'd like to do then is sort of move on to the third topic of discussion. So summarize so far, we discussed some services, okay? So we talked about immersive, we talked about the 5G enabling things like video, and we talked about the DHL example. And in this case, maybe let's try and bring some more examples into the conversation. We also talked about platform and what sort of features we need. But what I want to talk about now is monetization, right? So the value in all of this. We had a conversation earlier on, I think it was yourself, Chandra, and that said IoT is not quite giving us the revenue streams yet, but I would challenge that when we get into discussion. But can you guys think of any specific monetization strategies of, let's just talk from a wholesale perspective, how can we avoid being a dumb pipe? Airtime is a race to the bottom in terms of pricing. What can we do to increase the value stack? Would you like to start with that?
Yeah. So I see that on a different level, yeah. So first of all, like a combination of the different product within the CPaaS world, yeah. So for example, we could start like with this WhatsApp, DHL cares or whatever, and then redirect them to an SMS at the end of the way. So the whole purpose is to combine the channel in order to optimize the margin. So we're gonna split the margin all over the different channel, which is gonna enable us to optimize the margin at the end of the day. Yeah? And there's another point that I'd like to bring is as well in the relationship, at least on a link mobility standpoint, the relationship we have with the mobile network operator, it's a simple commercial relationship based on our pass-through for SMS or voice, or the whole purpose is like the mobile network operator need to understand that they need to control the price, because I mean in so many areas and so many countries of the world, the price have been out of control, and that makes it more and more complicated to just like keep going with the use cases, yeah, because the brand, they are not willing to keep paying like insane prices to keep sending SMS. And at the end of the day, together we need to work on something sustainable in order to keep the revenue and the margin for like a longer time, yeah, in order to compete with all the different software. Because otherwise, I mean, SMS will just become obsolete, and we won't be able to compete with the new channel because they are coming. Yeah? So, I mean, we all want to keep it, and we just need to work all together in order to just keep it going for as long as possible. Yeah.
So I think the topic of big data was mentioned. It's very useful to have your talk earlier on, because it's a very nice topic to talk about. But I'm thinking that one asset that the wholesale environment has, or one nugget that I think we miss, is that the visibility, so much traffic, what is actually going on. You know, so we can sort of start to understand where is traffic really coming from. You know, you mentioned the youth. You know, is it you know, shopping? Is that driving traffic? Is it video? Is it gaming? Is it you know, not very nice stuff like gambling? Whatever it is. So we can start to sort of see, and then but most clients we work with on that level haven't in the past thought about actually monetizing the knowledge.
Exactly.
Have you got any experiences of where you're starting to utilize that intelligence?
We are trying, to be very honest. That's not that easy, because, you know, see, what I feel is when it comes to IoT monetization,
yes,
wholesale carrier needs to think beyond connectivity. Connectivity is a commodity. we need to get into like that. I personally feel there would be two revenue streams that can be very important of those can drive the future growth. One can be, of course, security, because when you talk about billions of devices attached network, security is going to be very important. So somewhere wholesale carrier needs to get into that framework. Second, big data and analytics. As you mentioned, that just for an example, if we talk about global voice, international voice pattern, which parents was called to with their families, and the size of the whole wholesale voice market is somewhere around 7 to 10 billion US dollar. But when you bring remittance into that picture, the global remittance uh, size is more than 1 trillion US dollar. So the kind of knowledge and that and the kind of information that we have, if we somehow can monetize it, because the average immigrant purchasing power is 4 to 7 times than the home countries. Like someone who is in India and an Indian immigrant in US or UK or some part of other part of the purchasing power of that particular immigrant is 7 to 10 times than them. So anyhow, if we use these numbers, we use this information, we can build the future business cases for that.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to have a little bit of fun with you now. Okay, so to make it a bit interesting. So I'm gonna pick on you, Mahmoud, okay, in this case. So I'm Amazon. I want to launch a mobile service. Okay, I need global connectivity. I need this to be, robust. I need this to be seamless. I need to know what's going on. Why should I use iBasis, and why shouldn't I go to Cineverse or Bix or basically do these deals myself? What is it that you're going to do special for me?
Yeah, first of all, we tell you welcome. I will be very happy.
Let's talk about it.
I will look at the dollars coming in. To be more serious, and it's thank you for your question, because I was thinking all what we're saying from the beginning. People in the audience can think it's a matter of local operators or in local countries, etc. What all these have to do with wholesale? It's the portability of technology, and it's the value-added services. You talked about security. First of all, what you do in a country, as you said, you want it to be done seamlessly, and this cannot be done without us. So we are bringing this to say whatever technology you want to deploy here or there, whatever kind of communication platform, etc., will give you the immersive, seamless experience for all your consumers, for all your IoT devices all around the world, adding to that security, adding to that analytics, and adding to that a differentiated slice of billing systems, differentiated value, etc. Now, what's important to understand, if you think about what the operators has done 20 years back when they tried to launch music content, video content, etc., and all of a sudden they got Netflix, they got Spotify coming into the game and killing those tries, because it was not their job. What's very important to understand here is that we are now in a world of co-construction, and you get value altogether. You don't get value out of the rest with them losing. You really need to have this mindset of co-construction and get the margin, as you say, spread around the value chain. This is how it will work.
Yeah. So a couple of things which I would sort of propose. Obviously, you're a better salesman than me, but would be around performance. So because I think one of the things that people want to hear and see is that it's resilient. In an IoT world, that's super important, right? And I think the other point is the not omni-channel but omni-bearer. In terms of the wholesale environment needs to, I think about the ways we communicate is going to be, using IP, using mobile, using SMS, using fixed line telephony potentially, right? So it's thinking about how we can orchestrate and converge at that layer. And I think that with sort of and obviously if you have such good relationships with different carriers, and the question is what my pricing model is, and that's always going to be the issue with this is basically how do you make sure that the pricing is dynamic, because if we monitor and we can see that India, China, USA, Middle East, doesn't matter, there's a huge surge in traffic for whatever reason. Yeah, we need to be able to dynamically see what's going on and change it. So it could be a function, it could be a festival, it could be Diwali, it could be, you know, Eid, whatever it is. We need to be able to sort of quickly, and we've seen examples of. So I was involved in a very, very long time ago. You know, in one of the first ever voting on TV, which was Simon Cowell's, original baby, and it was Pop Idol, in fact. And I was involved in that. And O2 were responsible for the messaging. And I don't know if people know this, but only a fraction of the SMSs got through, because they just didn't realise that, oh my God, we are not ready for this capacity. Right? It wasn't flexible, wasn't scalable, wasn't thought through, and that happens a lot in a lot of in government campaigns with the coronavirus. There's all this stuff going on in terms of that boosted the video traffic like you wouldn't believe. Video calling has gone crazy. How many times do we say, "Oh, sorry, can't hear you. Oh, it's glitchy," right? We can't have that kind of experience in the world we want. Therefore, we're relying on you guys to basically help us with this performance, which is one thing that perhaps was missing from that conversation. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that statement in terms of performance?
Yes, I agree in general with the statement. It's just like complicated to put it in place. I mean, the things like you adapt your capacity to the type of traffic wherever you get your traffic. You adapt the platform and the capacity of the platform based on your customer and the type of traffic you're able to get. But the things like when you're getting, like you just said, for vaccination, like a blast from the government, it's just difficult to anticipate. So on this kind of matter, I would say that I mean that's going to be something we're going to try to get the best out of it. But I mean, on this kind of use cases, it's anyway going to be complicated to just give like a proper service to the customer in these cases. To be fair.
So I love your point about the GUI, the front end, making it feel a very nice user experience. And in Dubai a few weeks ago, I was very lucky to have gone into the Metaverse with Amdocs. They had these glasses, and they showed me how they created a service which you could see what was happening on one side. Basically a tour of a city, a big level we had yesterday. And you turned around and they showed you what was happening to make that happen. You want to order a pizza, know your preferences, know your see a video or something, and say all payments, make sure you got credit, all those things that are happening, all the orchestration of that happens in the background. And so, but having the front end of it to be able to sort of, okay, I need some more capacity here, I need some more. That's, I think, really, really powerful. Do you have that in place now, or is it something you need to build?
So when it comes to mobile money or all that, our platform is totally, you need to understand from our perspective, we are one of the unique company that covers telecom, fintech, as well as blockchain. Yeah. So Web3, we are able to kind of balance this transition in different era of the technology. Yeah. So when it comes to fintech, our platform is more over real time, and our GUI and every factors, because mobile money is more over like telecom, because you need to give the seamless banking to different part of the customers. So there also like our platform being very real time, and it's been given that experience. Yeah.
So what I'd like to, just because I think timing is coming up now, is sort of just wrap up with a final question, if I may, which is around commercial models, right? So I would propose a kind of revenue share with your customers, and this is something that we've been doing in wholesale a lot, which is to say, okay, you're enabling us to, if you're an OTT, you're enabling us to get this monetization. For example, it could be dropping, it could be content, it could be movies, it could be whatever, music, whatever it is. But if you enable us and you help us to give us a great service, you're going to benefit, because we're going to give you a percentage of that as well. So let's talk about 5G. Let's talk about specific. You mentioned video. Are there any specific examples of services that are driving revenue, volume, that we can potentially share back with the carrier. You mentioned immersive before.
Yeah, we can. One straight example for me is the IoT for industry.
There you go. Yeah.
You have factories, teams, all spread all around the world, and you want a seamless experience for all of them being connected, etc. Depending on the sensitivity, be it either to the performance or to the speed or to the resilience. You have few parameters you can play on even to differentiate your pricing there, and give them a very differentiated pricing model, be it on revenue share or be it on the CapEx OpEx model. But that's very straight here. Yeah, IoT for industry.
Anybody else?
Yes, with the basic SMS is possible too. I mean, when a brand is reluctant and as issue of being convinced of the power of the SMS potentially, I mean, what you can offer them is telling them that we're going to be paid on the conversion. So meaning only anything that's converting, we're going to be paid out of it. Yeah. So that help them to convince to register the service.
Examples from you?
I think he taken a right example, like in more like on conversion side, if messaging being kind of monetized, that's the real time example.
So I'm going to throw in a few other ones, a bit more out there. So I think user generated content is massive in terms of the TikTok world we live in, right? I think that is really exploding. I think contextual conferencing, for example, these events, a lot of them, I've seen some of them run in the virtual world. You're actually meeting people. The amount of processing power that's needed and security that's needed is just phenomenal, right? So that's kind of one thing. And I think I hate to say it, but I think that interaction in terms of things like gaming, but also before you go to on the shopping side of things, the try before you buy, for example, seeing a beach before you go there, seeing a hotel, walking through. So I was looking for office space in London, and now you can sort of walk through without going there, and so that helped me to choose my office. So that kind of I think there's many use cases. Any questions at this stage? We wrap up. Yeah.
Just one.
Please.
Flash calls.
Sorry.
I didn't hear the word flash call in the conversation. Is that something you guys are worried about? Or?
That's a very tough question. When it comes to flash calls, they have potential to kind of totally replace the A2P and OTT messages. So I think, and on other side, that's giving the customer and user a better experience than like every time punching that password. So I think industry need to kind of take a call on that. I think it would be the more purview of MNO that how they want to kind of control it. Because right now, I think as per the different studies, there were like 5 billion flash calls in 2021. By 2025, that's going to increase to 150 billion flash calls. That's more than total A2P messaging. So the industry is in doldrum, and how, like, if there would be, it can be like kind of OTT calling for A2P messaging. So that's.
We have very intense discussions with operators, and what's interesting is that we have the full scheme of discussions with operators. We have some operators asking us to be able to monetize it, and we have operators asking us to just block it. For me, it shows that the market is regulating itself on the pricing of A2P messaging, right? A2P SMS. So if you put it too high, people will look for another solution. If not, they will continue using it. But I can tell you, yes, we have both. We have, of course, the capacity both of monetizing or blocking it. Now it's up to the decision of operators and regulators to know what they want to do about it. But that can be a great game changer, especially for actors where we took commitments on A2P SMS.
Yeah. So thank you for your question. I'm going to summarize and wrap up now, if I may. So I've come up with a great idea. I think you started me off on this one. It's the subject of my next white paper, I think, my team. 5 Ps. 5 Ps of success in this game, in the wholesale game. Let's start with partnerships. Okay, that's all that from you, right? Platform. That's another building block. We teased out this performance. Okay, so the agile, making sure that we're end to end, right? Process, agile processes, blockchain, AI. These are all the enablers behind that. There's a lot more behind the scenes of these questions, but I've got it. My next paper is preferably, and the last one, which is my favorite because it's what we help with. A lot of work we're doing now is around this, which is positioning. I think that whenever I ask these questions, I sort of ask a question, yeah, we've got some great examples and really good customer cases, and we're making all this monetization, and I get the same answers, about the generic stuff. And so I said, well, how are we going to sell to customers if we can't position ourselves this well? Because the buyer of this stuff is not going to be they're not going to be technologists. They're going to be people that actually have a user need now, particularly in the wholesale world, because they're wholesaling from someone that does all that stuff, and we're buying from them. You've got to talk exactly what you said, right? Which is we need to understand and speak the language of those OTTs and even OTTs customers. That is a fantastic one. So thank you for that.
Arun, you just added a 6P in your sentence, which is people.
Okay, that's why I wrote that down.
You did it.
Did I? Okay. Yeah, I'm sure I have 10 P's by the time I Porter had 5 and then he added another 2. 7, didn't he? Yeah. Right, that's it then. Thank you very much for a wonderful discussion. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay. Good.